multiple regression. The previous reporter explained the concept of simple linear regression and correlation. In simple linear regression, the regression contains one independent variable x and one dependent variable y prime. So dito naman sa multiple regression, there are several independent variables and one dependent variable. So the formula in multiple regression is y prime is equal to a plus b sub 1 x sub 1 plus b sub 2 x sub 2 plus up to plus b sub k x sub k, where x sub 1, x sub 2, up to x sub k are the independent variables. Example: suppose a nursing instructor wishes to see whether there is a relationship between students' grade point average, age, and score on the State Board Nursing Examination. The two independent variables are GPA, denoted by x sub 1, and age, denoted by x sub 2. So she selects 5 students and obtains the following data. The multiple regression equation obtained from the data is y prime is equal to a plus b sub 1 x sub 1 plus b sub 2 x sub 2. Ngayon, para naman masob natin yung y prime, kailangan natin munang alamin yung value ni a, b sub 1, at saka ni b sub 2. So, yung formula para kay a is equal to mean of y minus b sub 1 mean of x sub 1 plus b sub 2 mean of x sub 2. At kay b sub 1 naman, yung formula niya is summation of x sub 2 square multiply to the summation of x sub 1y minus to the summation of x sub 1 x sub 2 multiply to the summation of x sub 2y all over to the summation of x sub 1 square multiply to the summation of x sub 2 square minus to the summation of x sub 1 x sub 2 quantity square. Kay b sub 2 naman, summation of x sub 1 square multiply to the summation of x sub 2y minus to the summation of x sub 1 x sub 2 multiply to the summation of x sub 1y all over summation of x sub 1 square multiply to the summation of x sub 2 square minus to the summation of x sub 1 x sub 2 quantity square. So, bago natin ma-solve yung value ni b sub 1 at saka ni b sub 2, kailangan natin munang makuha yung mga value nito. So, yung formula para kay summation of x sub 1 square is equal to the summation of x sub 1 square minus to the summation of x sub 1 quantity square all over n. Kung papasinin natin si color red na summation of x sub 1 square at saka color blue na summation of x sub 1 square, same sila. Pero hindi sila same ng value. So, yung summation of x sub 1 square, siya yung makukuha nating value do sa data. Ito naman color red na summation of x sub 1 square, ito yung kabuuan. So, ito yung kinukuha natin data o kinukuha natin value para kay b sub 1 at saka kay b sub 2. So, next, summation of x sub 2 square is equal to summation of x sub 2 square minus to the summation of x sub 2 quantity square all over n. Saka yung kay summation, next, summation of x sub 1y is equal to summation of x sub 1y minus to the summation of x sub 1 multiplied to the summation of y all over n. So, the summation of x sub 2y is equal to summation of x sub 2y minus to the summation of x sub 2 multiplied to the summation of y all over n. Tapos ito naman yung kay summation of x sub 1 x sub 2 is equal to the summation of x sub 1 x sub 2 minus to the summation of x sub 1 multiplied to the summation of x sub 2 all over n. Ngayon, ito yung data. So, kailangan lang natin kumpletuhin yung table. Kailangan natin yung summation sa x sub 1 quantity square, x sub 2 quantity square, at saka yung x sub 1 y, x sub 2 y, at saka yung x sub 1 x sub 2. So, pwede natin siyang i-calculate using calculator. I-solve using calculator. Then, isa-substitute lang natin yung mga value kanina nakuha natin. So, yung para sa summation of x sub 1 square, nakukuha tayo ng 0.98. Summation of x sub 2 square, isa-substitute lang natin, 3,102 minus 124 quantity square all over 5 is equal to 26.8. Para naman sa summation of x sub 1y, isa-substitute lang natin ulit yung mga nakuha natin kaninang sagot. So, 7,167.5 minus 7,854 is equal to 113.5. Summation of x sub 2y, substitute lang natin. Ang makuha nating sagot is 556. So, sa summation of x sub 1, x sub 2 naman, so, substitute natin ulit. Ang makuha natin sagot is 1.9. Now, ngayon nakuha na natin yung mga value nila, pwede na natin isolve yung b sub 1 at saka b sub 2 natin. So, para sa b sub 1 natin, isa-substitute lang natin yung mga nakuha natin values sa summation of x sub 2, summation of x sub 1, y, and etc. So, ang makukuha natin value para kay b sub 1 is equal to 87.64. Para naman kay b sub 2, isa-substitute lang natin isa-substitute lang natin ulit yung mga value nito at ang makukuha natin sagot para sa b sub 2 is 14.532. Kay a naman, so maaari natin siyang sagutin since meron na tayong b sub 1 at saka b sub 2. Yung mean of y natin is 2,805 all over 5 minus para sa b sub 1 naman natin is 87.64 multiplied by 14 all over 5 minus 14,534 multiplied by 124 all over 5. And the answer is negative 44.81. The multiple regression equation obtained from the data is y prime is equal to negative 44.81 plus 87.84 x sub 1 plus 15.533 x sub 2. If a student has a GPA of 3.0 and is 25 years old, her predicted state board score can be computed by substituting these values in the equation for x sub 1 and x sub 2 respectively as shown. Yan. So, negative 44.81 plus 87.64 multiplied by 3.0 plus 14.533 multiplied by 25 is equal to 581.44 or 581. Hence, if a student has a GPA of 3.0 and is 25 years old, the student's predicted state board score is 581. The assumptions for multiple. Normality assumption. For any specific value of the independent variable, the values of the y variable are normally distributed. Second, the equal variance assumption. The variance for the y variables are the same for each value of the independent variable. Third, linearity assumption. There is a linear relationship between the dependent variable and the independent variable. Next, non-multicollinear assumption. The independent variables are not correlated. And last, independence assumption. The values for the y variables are independent. Multiple correlation coefficient is symbolized by R. The value of R can range from 0 to positive 1. R can never be negative. The closer to positive 1, the stronger the relationship. The closer to 0, the weaker the relationship. The value of R takes into account all the independent variables and can be computed by using the values of the individual correlation coefficient. Formula for multiple correlation coefficient, where R sub y x sub 1 is the value of the correlation coefficient for variables y and x sub 1. R sub y x sub 2 is the value of the correlation coefficient for variables y and x sub 2. And R sub x sub 1 x sub 2 is the value of the correlation coefficient for variables x sub 1 and x sub 2. So, multiple regression coefficient. So, first, bago natin siya ma-solve, yung multiple regression coefficient natin, kailangan natin munang alamin yung correlation coefficient ng R sub y x sub 2, siya yung R sub y x sub 2, and R sub x sub 1 and x sub 2. Kung papansinin nyo, nilat ko yung y equal to x, siya yung x sub 1 is equal to y, para hindi tayo malito doon sa formula. Ngayon, kukumpletuhin lang natin yung table. Kailangan natin yung x, y, x quantity square, saka y square. Then, kapag nakuha natin yung value ng summation of x is equal to 2,805, summation of y is equal to 40.18, summation of xy is equal to 23,165.35, summation of x square is equal to 1,592,025, summation of y square is equal to 354.1234. Isa-substitute lang natin sila doon sa formula ng correlation coefficient. So, ngayon, pag isa-substitute natin yung mga formula, yung mga value, at ang nakuha natin para sa R sub y x sub 1 is equal to 0.845. So, same process lang din kay R sub y x sub 2. Nilat lang natin si y kay x, saka yung x sub 2 kay y, para hindi na tayo malito ulit. So, kukumpleto nyo yung data, pwede sa calculator. Pwede na natin siya i-compute sa calculator. So, kapag nakuha na natin yung value ng summation of x, summation of y, summation of xy, at saka yung summation ng x square at summation ng y square, isa-substitute lang natin sila ulit doon sa formula ng correlation coefficient. Ngayon, yung nakuha natin value para sa R is 0.791. So, last, same process lang din para sa R sub x sub 1, x sub 2. So, nilat natin sila ulit sa x and y. And then, summation of x is equal to 14. Summation of y is equal to 124. Summation of xy is equal to 349.1. Summation of x square is equal to 40.18. Summation of y square is equal to 3,102. And then, isa-substitute natin sila ulit sa formula ng correlation coefficient. At nakuha natin value para sa R sub x sub 1, x sub 2 is equal to 0.371. Ngayon, pwede na natin isolve yung multiple correlation coefficient. So, isi-substitute lang natin sila do sa formula. At ang nakuha nating sagot ay 0.989. Hence, the correlation between a student's grade point average and age with a student's score on the nursing state board examination is 0.989. In this case, there is a strong relationship among the variables. The value of R is close to 1.0. As with simple regression, R square is the coefficient of multiple determination, and it is the amount of variation explained by the regression model. The expression y minus r square represents the amount of unexplained variation, called the error or residual variation. Since yung R natin is equal to 0.989, yung magiging R square natin ay 0.978. And 1 minus R square is equal to 1 minus 0.978. Kaya magiging error natin ay 0.022. Testing the significance of R. An F-test is used to test the significance of R. The hypotheses are null, R raw is equal to 0. And our alternative hypothesis is raw is not equal to 0. Where P represent the population correlation coefficient for multiple correlation. F-test for significance of R. The formula for the F-test is F is equal to R squared all over K all over 1 minus R squared all over N minus K minus 1, where N is the number of data groups and K is the number of independent variables. The degrees of freedom are DFN, which is degrees of freedom numerator, is equal to N minus K, and DFD, which is degrees of freedom denominator, is equal to N minus K minus 1. So now, i-substitute lang natin ulit yung mga value ng R square, K, at N sa formula. At ang F natin is equal to 44.45. F-test for significance of R. The critical value obtained from table H with alpha is equal to 0.05, and the degree of freedom numerator is equal to 3, and degree of freedom denominator is equal to 2. So, titignan natin siya sa table. Ang nakuha natin value niya is 19.16. Hence, the decision is to reject the null hypothesis and conclude that there is a significant relationship among the students' GPA-H and score on the nursing state board examination. Adjusted R square. Since the value of R square is dependent on the N and K, statistician also calculate what is called an adjusted R square, denoted by adjusted R square. This is based on the number of degrees of freedom. Formula for adjusted R square. So, ito yung formula para sa ating adjusted R square. So, ulit, isa-substitute natin yung R square is equal to 0.978, at K naman natin is equal to 2, at ang N is equal to 5. So, 1 minus 0.022 multiplied by 4 all over 2 is equal to 1 minus 0.044. Kaya magiging sagot natin sa adjusted R square is equal to 0.956. In this case, when the number of data pairs and the number of independent variables are accounted for, the adjusted multiple coefficient of determination is 0.956.